Good morning, Nicole Snow here. I wanted to continue talking today about persisting. And one of the things that really gets in our way with persisting is the limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves and that negative self-talk that we can have. We've talked about it a little bit before, maybe because it's a little autobiographical for me. A funny story that we had happen in our family. One time Corey and I were out for the evening and he got a call on his cell phone from one of our kids at the exact moment I got a call on my cell phone from one of our other kids that were all at home, and they were in a panic. And Blake, who was like 3 or 4, had caused this huge mess and they didn't know what to do. And as we walked in, the kids are all in the kitchen, and it was just a galley kitchen in a really old home. So it wasn't real big, but the entire surface of the floor was covered in maple syrup. Blake had been trying to get a treat out of the pantry, top shelf, knocked over a brand new bottle of Costco-sized bottle of syrup, and it had broken and then just poured out all over the floor. And so Corey and I went to work and we're cleaning it up, and Blake walked in, and you've got to know Blake at the time, and Blake now loves treats. One time I was pouring syrup on his pancakes and he looked at me, he's really little, and he said, "Mom, doesn't that just look like sunshine?" You know, it made him happy, but he might be related to me a little bit. But as Corey and I are cleaning it up, he comes to the end of the kitchen and he just stood there with his shoulders slumped and looked at us, and he looked at me and he goes, "Mom, I lost all the family's syrup." And you could tell how he prioritized syrup, that he thinks it's like sunshine, liquid gold, and our family's greatest inheritance, basically. But he was berating himself for that loss, probably because he cared about the syrup more than anybody else in the house. But sometimes we can have an incident, something that we didn't mean to have happen, and we really just beat ourselves up about it. In fact, studies show that that's our programming to be negative, that 77% of our thoughts are negative, and some scientists estimate that about 75% of illnesses are self-inflicted, whether that's through psychosomatic, through negative thinking, through negative behaviors towards ourselves, things like that, destructive health practices. But that's a really big deal. And part of our programming is they estimate by the time that we're 18 years old, growing up in an average home as far as level of positivity, absence of abuse, that by the time we're 18 years old, we've heard no, or what we cannot do, at least 148,000 times. My kids have probably heard it more, but that's a lot of times. And then we continue to tell ourselves that. And in a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter, PhD, he talks about our brain being like a computer, that it doesn't assess information coming in as either good or bad, or having a morality of being good or bad, positive or negative. It's just information, and it has to accept whatever we give it. And that repetition is a powerful, powerful teacher. So as we hear no all those times, as we tell ourselves no all those times in our lives, our brain is a computer. It's just running a program, and whatever we input is what it puts out. And he talks about different examples of negative self-talk, and some of these I hadn't thought of before as negative self-talk. Nothing ever goes right for me. That's just my luck. I'm so clumsy. I'm just not creative. Everything I eat goes to my waste. I can't seem to get organized. Today just isn't my day. I can never afford the things I want. No matter what I do, I can't seem to lose weight. That really makes me mad. I'm just sick of thinking about it. Sometimes I just hate myself. I'm just no good at math. I get so depressed. I just can't seem to get anything done. I'm just not a salesman. That's impossible. There's just no way. I just can't get with it today. Some of those I hadn't thought of negative self-talk, but they are. It's limiting our beliefs. And he talks about that over the self-help industry produces or generates about $10 billion a year in revenue. That's so much money. What are we looking for? We're all searching for something. My self-help library is huge. And he says, we've all been to those to a pep rally, to a seminar, to a conference. We've read a book and we've been fired up, go fight, win. We're going to do it. And those principles are good. The things that we've learned, the things that we're excited about, they're good things that really are going to change our life. And sometimes we come home and we work on it for a little while, and it does change us for a little while, and then we slack off. Or maybe we never implement it. Maybe as soon as the feeling fades, our commitment also fades. What is it that makes it so that we can't keep those things long term? That we can't keep that going, that we have to keep buying those books, keep attending those seminars, trying to keep ourselves motivated. And he says that there's 3 things missing. One of them is permanence. That external solutions can only be temporary. If that book can't jump down off the shelf and make you do it, it's only going to be temporary. If you can't bring that motivational speaker home with you and have them make you do it, it's only going to be temporary unless something changes. He also says that a lot of those things fail to address the physiologic process that has to take place for us to create change in our life. Because our brain is a computer and it's following the programming we've been giving it. We can't bring in a new idea with the same old programming and expect to be able to carry it out and expect it to have permanence. And then lastly, what is lacking is new programming, helping teach ourselves and teach our brain what it is that's possible, that can come to pass. So he says that our programming, the way we talk to ourselves, the way others have talked to us or limited us, creates our beliefs. And our beliefs create our attitudes. Our attitudes lead to our feelings, and our feelings determine our actions, and our actions determine our results. So we always have to start with the first thing. We have to start with the programming. We can't just bring in new information without addressing that. And as I continue in this video series, I'll share some of his information on how to change that programming. But it goes back to also what shame researcher Brene Brown says, that shame is the feeling, instead of saying I made a mistake, instead of Blake saying, I made a mistake and helping clean it up, he felt like he was a mistake. So shame tells us not I made a mistake, but I am a mistake. And there's a big difference between the two. One of them can motivate us. We can be motivated by our shortcomings and our failures. But the other programs us to fail forever, because that's the programming that we're giving to our brain and to ourselves. And no matter the other input, no matter the information that we get, it's never going to be long term. We're going to always have to keep buying those self-help books, always attending the pep rally, the seminar, to try to get us from event to event to event, unless we start with number 1, the programming. Unless we change our programming, then those things can have permanence in our lives. And I know it's really hard. As I read that list, and it's a 2-page list, I could check the box on so many of them. And I didn't even think of some of them as being negative self-talk. I just thought of them really almost as just being a fact in your life, like my weight doesn't fluctuate even when I work really hard at it, or whatever it is. We all have those things, but those are a form of negative self-talk and a form of programming. And just know that awareness is going to be the biggest key in changing it going forward. Just being aware of what you say to yourself and acknowledging it. That's our first step in it. And then I'll share more of his great advice on changing our programming and ultimately changing what it is that we can create in our life, because I believe that we all have really infinite potential. And what a tragedy it would be if just the words that we said to ourselves held us back. If we just limited and tied ourselves down with words, that's a tragedy. To be born into this life with the opportunity to make an impact and have really every capacity to do so inherently within you, every capacity to make an impact, for this world to be different because you were here. Don't limit yourself with the things that you say to yourself. Don't limit that infinite capacity and infinite potential with words. And so the challenge today is to continue from yesterday, to notice positive things that happen and hold on to them for at least 30 seconds, to just think about them, think about that moment and hold on to that, so that positive memory sticks with you more than the negative do. And then also to notice what it is that you say to yourself and to be aware of the self-talk that you have, because that's how you're programming yourself. We have internal and external programming, and you're in charge of the internal. You're also in charge of getting away from negative external programming, but we know that that can be complicated, and probably a whole other video series and a life's work to keep working on that. But just know that I believe in you. I know that you're born with the capacity for impact, and that's inherent. It doesn't take anything external or in addition to yourself. It's you. You are enough. Thank you.